This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
So, Justin.
Yeah, Andros, what's up?
How are you holding up in day 9,700 of the quarantine?
I still restrained from cannibalism.
That's good.
I'm keeping things real. In the internet marketing world, it's not all that different. I go out a little bit less than I normally do, but I'm also not a guy that goes out all that much to begin with. So,
So how have you been occupying your time?
Working.
Yeah.
Like
that's cool.
18, 19, 20-hour days. Yeah.
Are you planning on going to any events, like virtually or otherwise?
Now that you mention it, there's one coming up that I just might be attending.
Really? Which one?
You'll hear about it later, a little bit later.
Oh, you're going to keep me in suspense. Well, in that case,
that's right.
I'll just go ahead and introduce myself. My name's Andros Sturgeon.
And I'm Justin Womack.
And we are the Marketing Geeks.
Marketing Geeks.
Where is Daredevil? I'm right here. Don't miss the return of Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again.
So what's next?
I feel liberated. We're going to take this city back. Over-medicated. In an all-new season, now streaming only on Disney+.
They're hunting us. It's time we started hunting them.
I can work with that.
This should be tons of fun.
Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again, now streaming only on Disney+.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So where are you going, man? Does it have something to do with our guest?
Well, it does have something to do with our guest, because our guest this week is none other than who I'm going to call a celebrity, because he's a celebrity in my world, Tucker Max. He's the co-founder of Scribe Media, who you're going to hear a little bit about that on this interview, which is a company that helps you write, publish, and market your book. But he's kind of had 2 careers, because when I came to know about him, he was the author of, I think it's called I Hope They Drink Beer in Hell.
Hope They Serve Beer in Hell.
I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell, which is the one that I heard about him from. And they actually converted that into a movie. I don't know how well the movie did, but it became a movie regardless. But he's gone on to write 4 New York Times bestsellers, 3 that hit #1 on the charts. He's sold over 4.5 million copies worldwide. He's credited with being the originator of the literary genre Fratire. So we'll have to get into that, which I guess is a combination of fraternity and satire. And he's only the 4th writer among the Malcolm Gladwell, Brene Brown, and Michale Lewis to have 3 books on the New York Times nonfiction bestseller list at one time, simultaneously.
Damn.
That's pretty good. And he was nominated to the Time Magazine 100 Most Influential list in 2009. Please welcome to the show, Tucker Max. How are you, Tucker?
Thank you.
Tucker Max.
It's awesome to have you here.
Yeah, for sure. So for those listeners who don't know you, can you give us a little kind of rundown about like something that maybe Justin didn't cover?
Justin covered it pretty well. He got the important things. I mean, I'm married with 3 kids. Like everything he didn't cover is pretty boring, to be honest.
But you had kind of like 2 kind of career paths, right? Because like when you started with I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell, that was quite a different kind of career area. You had a different mission back then. Would you say that's accurate? Like tell me about like.
I didn't have a mission, man. It was more like I liked hooking up with girls, and I liked drinking, and I liked partying, and I found a way to make money doing that. So I did it. Like that was, I guess that's the mission, but it was definitely not a conscious like, oh, I've decided I'm going to do this. It was like, oh, like this is an option in front of me. I'm going to take it.
Now, I also had that similar mission back in college, but I didn't find the way to monetize it. So what happened? How were you able to take like this college journey and find a path to monetization? Like, were you running a blog in the beginning? Like, and how did this go to the New York Times?
Yeah, I mean, so this was, you got to remember, this was I'm 44 now. So this was 2001, 2002, like that arena. So that was like back when GeoCities was still a thing, right? Like the word blog didn't exist. The idea that you could be a writer on the internet was still not a thing that people believed or anticipated. And so long story short, after I graduated law school, I wrote all these emails to my friends about how much I hated my life because I lived in South Florida, which is the armpit of America, culturally at least. And they thought they were hilarious and started forwarding them around to their friends. And they're like, dude, you should do this for a living. And I'm like, what, I'm going to be a writer? What kind of a bitch am I? I'm not doing that. And then I got fired from the only 2 jobs I've ever really held. I was fired as a lawyer in 3 weeks and then fired from my family business by my father in 6 months. And so they're like, all right, dude, you're not good at the things you're supposed to be doing, but this writing thing you're actually good at. And so I sent my emails out to like every publisher and got 100% rejection. To the point where some of them were like, you should never write an email again. This is the worst stuff I've ever read.
And what was the family business? What kind of business?
Restaurants in South Florida.
Okay. Yeah. And what kind of restaurant was it?
Max's Grill. It's like a sort of like Cheesecake Factory, but a little bit nicer, like that style. And so it was, by the way, a great business to not be in right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're probably glad you're not in there right now.
Yeah, super excited about that. Anyway, so I sent it out to everybody, got complete rejection. But then my emails started getting forwarded back to me by my friends. Remember back when email forwards were a thing? Like you would get a funny, before like old people found them. Like when
chain letters?
Right, exactly. Sort of like chain letters, but like funny. Like what stuff that's on, Instagram and Twitter and all the other sort of social networks used to be email forwards. And so my stuff did. And now it's like, and I was like, okay, they're wrong. Like all these people who are paid all this money to pick best-selling books don't know what they're talking about. Turns out I was true, or I was right. So I ended up putting my stuff on the internet for free. And then there's a lot of details, but it basically took off from there. I was the first guy to go blog to bestseller, the first one to go blog to movie, all of that stuff. Like I was kind of the accidental pioneer of it.
You were at the forefront of the edge before. Yeah.
No, wait, how big did you get in terms of were they putting you on the Tonight Show or anything like that? Did you get to make any of the traditional celebrity stuff?
Yeah, I was on of course. I was on the 100 most influential list in 2009, which by the way, all the celebrity stuff is such bullshit. People now everyone gets that now, but 10 years ago, they didn't quite get that. Now everyone knows it's all smoke and mirrors and bullshit. I was on, what's his name? Carson, what's his face? And I was on a couple of
Carson Daly?
Yeah, Carson Daly. I was on his show. I was on a couple of others, but you got to remember, man, in America, even 10 years ago, no one's famous for being a writer. There's no such thing as a famous writer. There are famous people who write. And the random weird exceptions are like me, Malcolm Gladwell, kind of. But even Malcolm Gladwell, if you took a poll of all Americans, only 20 or 30% would know who Malcolm Gladwell is, right?
Not many would probably recognize what he looks like too.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so he's famous among a certain type of person. So maybe the rare exception is a couple novelists, like J.K. Rowling, most people know, Michael or Stephen King, James Patterson, there's a few others, right? But no one in America is famous for being a writer. So I got about as famous as you can be being a writer. Movie was made about my life, all that kind of stuff. But at that point, you have to level up to be a fame whore. You have to become famous for going to parties and all that. And I lived in LA for 2 years, dude. And it's hard for me to envision a worse hell than that. Than LA.
Oh man. Yeah, I worked in the industry for a good 10 years, and I got to tell you, Hollywood is a place where, and I said this before, God just shook the United States, and only the normal people hung on, and all the psychopaths either slid to DC or Los Angeles.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. I mean, and the worst part is the entertainment business attracts the two types of business attract three types, the worst people. Finance in New York, politics in DC, and entertainment in LA, right? And politics are where ugly people go. If you're too ugly for Hollywood and you're not smart enough for finance, then you're in politics, right? And the finance is I care mostly about money. Hollywood is I care mostly about fame. That's it.
Yeah, that's really, really accurate. Well said. I've never really kind of put it that concisely, but man, you're dead on there.
Yep.
So what was your Hollywood, like you start, did the movie deal kind of come in around that time? Or like,
yeah, the book came out in 2006 and hit the bestseller list because I had this thing called an email list, which at the time, outside of direct marketers or internet marketers, no one understood what that meant or knew anything about that. And I didn't even. I just put up an email capture on my site, and then all of a sudden there were 50,000 people who were getting emails from me. So my book hit the New York Times bestseller list 2 weeks in a row when it came out, with no press, nothing.
So first of all, what was that like? I mean, when you suddenly were like, holy shit, like this is like your family that fired you, like what was that whole process when you went from kind of like semi-known to like really known?
And what kind of money? Were you making like really good money at this point too?
No. So this is actually a perfect segue. I'll break two big assumptions people have. A lot of people assume when your book hits the bestseller list, all of a sudden all this stuff happens. Nothing happens. Your friends don't even know unless you tell them, because no one looks at the bestseller list and no one actually cares, and it doesn't sell any books. Now, if you get to put it on your bio and say it, then like it is a credential, like the way that like going to an Ivy League school is a credential or whatever. So it is an actual credential, but it's like, it's not like, there's no parade. You don't get a bunch of calls. Like, it's not like, oh, we're going to invite you to the cool secret famous people parties. Like, none of that stuff happens. It'd be cool if it did, but it didn't. And then the way books work, I mean, you know, it's sold decent copies, 5,000 the first week, 3,500 the second week, but you get paid every 6 months, right? And so it's like, it's not like on Amazon, you get paid every month. And it's like, no. This was 2006 before Amazon was Amazon truly yet. And even in 2006, there were probably only 50, 100 million people on the internet or something like that. Like maybe half of America was on the internet or whatever, something, 150. And so like, it was still like, there's still, oh, he's just like an internet person. Like that was still a thing. Dude, it was still creepy to meet people off the internet in 2006. You guys forget, man. Like that was still real weird then. It's like, we met, people would whisper like, we met on the internet. Like,
no, I was online dating in like 2007, 2008, and it was very hush hush.
Right, exactly.
Nobody talked about it.
Yeah. Exactly, right. So I being an early pioneer with this stuff doesn't really help you become famous. It's way better usually being the second, third wave. It's like with almost any tech or anything, like let the pioneers figure out all the problems, fall into all the pitfalls and get caught in the Donner Pass, and you realize, okay, we're going to pass the Donner Pass and go around. Like,
which is my theory for what big tobacco is doing with the CBD and marijuana industries right now. So
yeah, probably, seriously, probably right, and vaping too. It's like, all right, we'll let the early people find all the problems and we'll avoid them.
So what about royalties? Like, what kind of royalties were you bringing in from a book?
Garbage. Hot garbage.
Do you have like a bad deal? Was it because you had a bad agent, or?
Everyone gets the same deal in Hollywood.
Okay.
So it's not like, in books. Publishing is like, again, it's like people who really want to be in media but are too dumb to be in Hollywood are in publishing, or people who are like total book nerds, right? And so neither of those types are business people. So it's very much a gentleman's sort of world. They're all pretty upstanding, but it's like they screw everybody the same. So it's not like, you don't get screwed like, oh, this guy got a bad deal, this guy got a good deal. Everyone gets the same deal, and it's all garbage. And everyone accepts it because they all want to be chosen, right? It's like, oh, I'm important, I'm published, and all that bullshit. And thankfully, like my company, and like self-publishing and my company and other people have helped kind of wash a lot of that nonsense away. But there's still a huge, it's sort of like going to an Ivy League school, right? Like I got into all the Ivies for undergrad and for law school, and they didn't want to give me any money. So I was like, fuck you guys. I'll go to the University of Chicago, which is just as good. And then I'll go to Duke, which gave me a full ride. Right. And like, and you know, like Harvard's like, you should be happy you got in. And I'm like, Duke gave me $150,000. And they're like, well, we're Harvard. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll see you guys later. They're playing on their status. It's bullshit. At the end of the day, it's complete bullshit. But most people are monkeys playing status games, and they don't realize.
Or aren't we, like, our society's built on the status game in so many different ways, right?
No, it's not. It's built on the people who produce. The people who play the status games pretend that they're the ones important ones and the ones in charge. Those are the ones in LA, DC, and LA and DC especially, who are saying, oh, what we do is so important. Usually what they do is get in the way.
Yeah, for sure.
Like that's not what the society is built on, the people who do the work.
So what when you got the option for the film, what was that experience like? Because you wrote the screenplay as well, right?
Yeah, I partnered with another guy. I wrote the screenplay. I was a producer on the movie. Like, I didn't put up the money for it, obviously, thank God. But dude, the Hollywood system it's breathtaking. Like, I was just talking about publishing. Is like kind of everyone gets screwed when publishing is like the greatest experience and the most fair system on earth compared to Hollywood. Like, if you want to understand what Hollywood's like, this is the best way to explain it. So when I got there, right, I moved to LA in 2007, and like, you know, I was getting, I mean, our script was getting big 7-figure offers. Like, I was playing in like the Hollywood Hold'em game, which is like, it is like the secret celebrity invite shit. Like, I got into that
Molly's Game,
right? I got into that world. No, seriously, where it was like Vince Vaughn and all those people play. And like, you realize a couple things. First, almost everyone in Hollywood is either a complete malignant sociopath or psychopath, or a completely empty narcissist. Almost all of them are one of the two, right? Not all, but almost all. Then you also realize that most of them have no fucking idea how the game is played at all. All they really care about is the fame and the status, and they'll do anything. And when I say anything, I mean anything to get it. And then you realize, oh my God, the people who actually control the system out there are people like Harvey Weinstein. And I'm going to tell you, he's not even in the top 5 worst.
Oh, totally. In fact,
he's not even in the top 5, guys. He's awful. He's a monster.
Yeah.
He should be in jail forever. And he's not even in the top 5. He was probably in the top 10, but he's not in the top 5. Like, he didn't diddle children. Like, you know, yeah. And there's quite a few of those.
Yeah.
Like, no, he was not. Oh my! There's people I met where I'm like, man, I'm not sure you're a human. Where you're so fucked up and evil that, like, if aliens existed, you're who I imagine they would be. You're so
no, it's so true, and that's why it always astounds me when the conspiracy theorists are like, oh, the reptiles are taking over Hollywood and the government's like, man, you don't need to go over to reptiles.
You can just look at the evil humans, right?
There's enough evil fuckers out there that they will backstab anybody. And then, so, you know, here's the thing. I worked for Oliver Stone for a little while, right? And they offered me a job to basically work at the front desk. And I really got to see how everything was done. And I realized that in order for me to make it in that town, I would have to literally sell my soul and have a contract. And these people will, you know, and so of course the people that backstab the best, they have no morals, so they'll fuck anybody, you know, and they'll just, you know, figuratively and literally to get to the top. And that's, you know, it's a giant game that they play to keep their status. So obviously you realize that pretty quickly, huh?
Oh yeah, no, it did not take me long. I thought I knew going in, man, and it's the level of depravity is just breathtaking, guys. Like, here's I explain Hollywood to people that not just Harvey Weinstein he's only top 10, not top 5.
Yeah,
but the funny thing is, I said, look at all the people he worked with, right? Okay,
yeah.
Now a bunch of women came out talking about how he raped them and did all this stuff. And I have no doubt he did all of that. Now go look at all the women he worked with, who either said nothing, right? Like either they did it voluntarily or they're still afraid to come forward because they don't want it to screw with their career, one or the other, because all of them did. Or go look at all the dudes who worked with him, because all of them knew.
Yeah.
All of them. One of Harvey's like big writers wrote this whole piece on Facebook about this, which I thought was perfect. And it's called We Knew. And the whole thing's like, look, I knew this, I knew that. And if you orbited Harvey at all, you knew. So don't act like you didn't. And he's right. I know. I met Harvey one time in one pitch meeting. And I walked out of it and I'm like, I'm not working with him or anyone ever again. And I fucking knew. And it's not like true. I was a deep insider, man. I was a surface Hollywood person.
Yeah, everybody knew. Everybody in 2003, everybody knew. So this whole thing, when his whole like board came out, they're like, oh, we're shocked. We had no idea. It's like, you fuckers, you all knew.
Look. Don't fucking tell it. If you believe in anything about believe women and all this, then you need to be fucking setting Matt Damon and Ben Affleck on fire right now because they fucking knew the whole thing the whole time. And they even fucking say, everyone knew they knew.
Yeah.
The whole system is like that. Every single person in that system is like that. And you're exactly right. Andros, you're exactly right. I said to myself, what is my soul worth? And I'm like, it's not worth this. It may have a price, but there's fucking nothing out here I'm willing to trade it for. And I was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I think an author that's kind of captured this is John Ronson in the Psychopath Test. Have you read that, Tucker?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's like the kind of concept here is you have like people that are psychopaths are either going to end up in prison or they're going to end up as like Hollywood celebrities, politicians, or finance
surgeons,
people.
Or surgeons.
It's like these three areas.
Yeah, or surgeons is the other big one, and pilots. Those are the big five. Yeah. Yeah, high status, high intelligence games. Yep.
So was there a moment when you were like, was there one specific moment? Were you living in Hollywood at the time?
Yeah, I lived in LA. I lived in the belly of the beast, like literally like right at Hollywood and Vine.
Oh, Hollywood and Vine?
Dude, it was
like what? Like was that like were you living like in that area by Man's Chinese Theater?
Yeah, of course.
Oh my God,
right there.
Dude! Yeah. I lived.
You were neighbors.
Yeah, no, we were because I lived on Hawthorne. Hawthorne was right between La Brea and Hollywood.
Of course.
And I lived like right there for like 10 years. Like it's a wild place. So we were neighbors. Yeah, man. Yeah,
it took me too, man.
I got a couple questions about the writing background. So. You ended up, starting a blog, getting to the New York Times, all this. Did you have a writing background in high school, college? Like, was that anything like a skill set you were recognized for, or is this something that just like developed randomly kind of later on?
Well, so, I mean, all right. So right now, because I'm an entrepreneur and most of our clients are entrepreneurs or business owners. So like, I know I would say if you had to identify a circle I run the most in, that's the circle. And of that group of people, I'm one of the only ones who has a stellar 5-star education background, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, I graduated 3 years summa cum laude from the hardest undergrad in the country, University of Chicago, and then went on to get an academic scholarship to a top 10 law school, right? And
what was your bachelor's in? What was your undergrad?
It was it's this thing called Law, Letters, and Society, which is basically like econ light. It's like econ, but just easier.
And it leads to law school.
Okay. Right. Well, it leads to law school and I could graduate in 3 years, whereas econ I was going to have to take 4. So, but like I took all the econ classes except for econometrics and a few other ones that was for ridiculously hard math. I'm like, fuck that. I don't want to do that. So, dude, I studied under 5 Nobel laureates, all those guys at Chicago, right? Becker and Coase and Fogel and all of them. And so, what was so funny, man, is like I talk to my friends now, and they're all super insecure about their educational background, and it's definitely an area where they're sensitive or they feel less than. And I tell them all, I'm like, guys, it's just a fucking game, and I figured the game out and broke it, and you didn't. But had you had someone around to tell you how to work the system, I know you could have broken it, as evidenced by the fact that you're successful entrepreneurs, which is the same thing, basically. And they don't believe me. And then I walk them through I'm like, what were you the least good at? And they're like, oh, math or English or this or that. I'm like, okay. And then I'll walk them through how to do it. And they'll look at me like, oh, like they're flabbergasted. It never occurred to them that this is not some objective measure of humans. It is a bullshit set of rules put together by a bunch of assholes who are trying to make themselves feel important and establish their own authority and credibility. It's completely arbitrary. And once you understand that, you can model it and break it easily, which is all I did.
Is this Assholes Finish First, your book that is that what that's kind of about?
No, none of those books are about school at all.
Okay.
Like they're all about drinking, hooking up, all that stuff.
So the thing I want to mention though is that because I had a lot of success in school for the most part, but I would just cruise and I could just show up and do well and not eventually I didn't do that well in college because I just didn't go to class, but I was able to graduate and get a bachelor's of science degree in biopsychology without showing up to a lot of classes actually,
yeah.
which is kind of sad. But I mean, the funny thing is like, it's so weird to me because I agree with you. There's a lot of people that are uncomfortable about not having bachelor's degrees, and I find them to be completely worthless, completely arbitrary, like you're saying. And it's all a game in terms of like you have to be good at one thing, and that's taking tests. And like this is a measure of how good you are at memorization and test taking. It has nothing to do with how well I retain the information. It has nothing to do with if you were to ask me the same questions today. Actually, because I've kind of come back to this subject, I would do okay. But I mean, if you ask me questions about a random philosophy class I took in college, I would have no idea about anything. But I was able to get an A in a test. It's just a weird random.
I would actually take it a step higher of abstraction. It's not just memorizing for a test. That's what a lot of people try to do and they fail at. What it is modeling the mind of the instructor. First off, you have to model the system and then model the mind of the instructor and understand what is it. What are the incentives weighing on them in this system? How are they measuring themselves? And what do they think they have to see from you in order to validate their role in the system and moving you forward and the rankings, right? So that was always my first thing with every class was deeply understanding the teacher's mindset. Because once you understand that, because there are some teachers absolutely where memorization was the thing, right? Like if you can't recite these facts, you don't know. Plenty of others didn't give a shit about that. It was they care about other things. And so it was never, I didn't take one strategy. I took the strategy of I need to get inside their head and figure out what they want and not what they say they want, because that'll work maybe 2/3 of the time. But there's a full category of teachers who think they want X, but they actually want Y. And understanding that gap was the big thing. And once you get it, it's easy.
I think I did some of that intuitively, but I didn't ever break it down like you're breaking it down to like you actually identified the system behind it.
Oh yeah.
Because I adapted my style based on the instructor. I was quick to kind of interpret that stuff, but I think I was just doing that naturally, and that's just like a natural skill set that came to me, which is why I did probably well in school versus other people. But so are you into things like NLP, like neuro-linguistic programming, where you actually break down behaviors and model? Because that's kind of what you're describing, but I don't know.
NLP is an okay model of that system thinking. Mm-hmm. It's a limited tool set. It's sort of like saying, going to a carpenter and being like, I know you got a lot like lathes and hammers, right? And that's what you do. It's like, well, okay, I use those. They're useful, but that's not, by no means is that my entire tool set, nor is that the only thing I would ever use. You know, like almost, I can't think of a philosophy or an idea set that I would consider a complete tool set. The closest thing I've ever seen is Buddhism, and that's only a complete tool set for a specific type of goal. Right?
Not Scientology?
No, shockingly, no.
Just thought I'd ask.
No, wouldn't that be amazing if I started being like, you don't believe in Thetans? I don't understand.
My dad was a science fiction writer, and one of the things he's credited for is that he was at a party, and he often talked about how he overheard L. Ron Hubbard say to somebody that if you really want to make a lot of money, you know what you do? You start a religion. Yeah. And
that's how you do it, pal.
That's how you do it, pal.
And you know what else you do? You blackmail 40,000 IRS agents simultaneously until they give in and give you tax exempt status.
That'll work too.
Yeah, I want to do that. So I want to switch gears a little bit because you made it as a writer, but then your life started turning around. You met a fabulous partner, but recently you wrote a blog about plant medicine therapy and MDMA, and I'm really fascinated about this. If you don't mind talking a little bit about your experience with that and why you decided to just come out with that
and how it's helped you.
Yes. Yeah. So all right. So my to understand that, let me give you a little background on my therapeutic background. So after I left LA, I went to Austin, and like the movie had failed, which like is the most ridiculous rich white person problem of all time. There was a movie made about my life that wasn't a massive blockbuster, and it was emotionally crippling to me, right? But it's the truth, but like it's also ridiculous, but it's just how it was.
Had Netflix been around, maybe.
Probably not, no.
But I mean, like, when it wasn't successful, was there like this kind of ego thing? Like people don't like the story.
No, it wasn't that. I wasn't fragile like that. It was much more, it was a grandiosity thing. It was like for basically at that point, 09, for about 7, 8 years, almost everything I'd done had worked. And, like I'd come from a pretty abusive childhood background, not traditional abuse, not physical or sexual abuse, more emotional, loneliness, neglect, really just neglect was the big one. But I didn't see it that way. I didn't understand that at all. And anyone who's going out and trying to be famous is doing that to fill an emotional hole. And like I just spent 20 minutes ago shitting on LA people. I was out there next to those motherfuckers, so I wasn't that far off from them, right?
Well, it's intoxicating. It's fucking intoxicating when you're out there.
Only if you have a hole in your soul that you're trying to fill with attention, right? And I did. And I'm not trying to say, fundamentally, I was there for the same reason they were. The difference between them and me is that I also had a soul. And they don't, or they got rid of it or are willing to trade it or sell it, right? I wasn't.
You don't qualify as a antisocial personality disorder in the DSM, is what you're saying.
No, there aren't a lot of those out there. There's tons of sociopaths, psychopaths, which is very different than antisocial personality disorder. But anyway, so I got to Austin and I made all this money on my books and I was famous and I had girls. And so like everything was objectively great in my life. But like I still felt terrible about the movie thing and about whatever, right? And so like I was using success to push away the negative emotions in my life. So then like I fixed everything. Man, I got in the best shape ever, like 8% body fat, like everything in my life was perfect. Could not be better by any stretch. And I wasn't miserable. Like it was way better than when I was poor and fat and a loser and whatever, but it was just not that good. It still wasn't what I wanted. I'm like, this can't be it, right? So then I'm like, well, the only thing left is me, my head, my emotions. So then I started psychoanalysis. I went 4 times a week for 4 years. And it was really good at giving me a map to my emotions and my psyche and understanding sort of like where I was. But it's sort of like, imagine if I said, hey, I want you to really describe New York City to me with a map. It's like, that's only going to get you so far, right? You kind of got to walk the island, right? You got to walk the territory. And for emotion, for psychology, for therapy, walking the territory is feeling your emotions. So I had done all the thinking I could and I was done and now it's time to feel. And it was real hard for me. I tried a bunch of things and nothing was really working. And then a buddy of mine did MDMA assisted psychotherapy. And like, I saw the change in him and it was breathtaking, the difference.
Powerful.
And I was like, I want that. Like, I want to be who he is. And I don't mean everything, just the way what's changed in him is I want that change. And so I went to his guide. Of course, shit's still illegal, right? I mean, it's in phase 3 clinical trials. It's going to be legalized next year after probably, but it is still illegal. So thankfully he introduced me to his underground guide and this woman was amazing. And I did a few sessions with her. And then I kind of went down the rabbit hole of this. And now it's about a little bit over 18 months later. And I've done, I don't know, man, at this point, probably 12 to 15 different therapies, only 3 substances. MDMA therapy, psilocybin therapy, mushrooms, or LSD. I've also done 1 ketamine session as well. But man, it's fundamentally changed my life, dude, in all ways, shapes, or forms. It's probably the most important thing I've ever done.
Absolutely. And I've done a lot of that type of work myself. Like, I went to Burning Man for like 20 years and did a lot of mushrooms. But but it's also, there's a component to it because it's one thing to in those experiences you have these grand awarenesses of like extreme love or like, oh my God, everything is connected to everything else, or oh my God, there's multidimensional beings that are contacting me from other dimensions. That's a different topic. But
I get it, man. I talk to the machine elves too.
Okay, cool. Yeah, when they show up, and it's really wild because I don't know if this was your experience, but for me, when they showed up, they were kind of like, "Hey, it's you," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's you guys. I know you," and they're like, "Yeah, I know you," and we just kind of partied together. And then they were like, "Hey, you want to see some cool stuff?" And then they show you around, weird geometric shapes and shit. And I don't know if that was your experience.
Yeah, so I'll tell you guys, I've had really good guides on this. Like I've never done any of these substances recreationally. Like I'm confused as to how someone does LSD at concerts. I'm like, what the hell? This stuff is a I mean, this is a serious gut punch substance. I don't know how people do this at concerts or whatever.
How big a doses are you taking in therapy for
so
like
it totally depends. So for MDMA, you're looking at 150 to 180 milligrams. For psilocybin, anywhere from 2.5 up to I did one session that was 8.5 grams, which is like a serious, like that's where you see the machine house type.
That's a heroic journey.
Yeah. And then LSD, I've not really gone beyond, I did one session about 200, but LSD, I'm either sensitive to it or it hits me really hard. So I tend to stay at lower doses. 25 to 50 gets me more than enough. Which is not a high dose.
Have you tried microdosing LSD? Not
LSD. Microdosing LSD does not work well for me. It's almost like I can't find a dose small enough. It's super weird. But I microdose mushrooms like twice a week. I'm about 25 milligrams of mushrooms, and then I do the Stamets stack. I do the mushrooms with lion's mane, about 200 milligrams of lion's mane, and 300 milligrams of niacin. And it's amazing, man. I feel like it's incredible. But what I was saying is that I have really good guides, and they basically explain, look, there's two reasons to do these therapies. One is for trauma recovery, and one is for mind expansion and enlightenment. And the two things overlap, but they are not the same thing. And that they really, for me, I had a lot of trauma to unpack. And they're like, we find that it's, if you have a lot of trauma, you're better off doing the trauma work first and then going into the expansion enlightenment.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't, a lot of people, like I'm sure you guys know these people, and I know a bunch of them, the ones who like did ayahuasca first, and then they get into what's called spiritual bypass. And they just keep doing ayahuasca because they love the experience and the feeling, but they don't do any of the actual integration work. Because the medicines themselves don't change you. They just open they create an opportunity and an opening for you to do a lot of work and make it a little bit easier and a little bit more accessible, et cetera. But you still got to do a lot of emotional work to get most of the benefit. And so and I got this explained to me by people I knew and trusted, thank God. And so I started, MDMA is such a great place to start because it's not really psychedelic. It's mainly trauma work. And I started there, then lower dose mushrooms, then kind of higher dose. And I realized, okay, I'm not quite ready for high dose stuff. And then lower dose LSD. And I'm getting to the point where I'm going to start moving up the chain to the higher, the more enlightenment based medicines like 5-MeO and ayahuasca and those sorts of things. But the lower you stay, the better it is because the more you get rid of the trauma, the easier it is for you to be enlightened. But if you don't, it messes you up.
Yeah, for sure.
So where does this line up in your timeline in terms of like starting Scribe Media? And
Scribe was about 5 years ago. So I started Scribe long before.
So about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You did.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was curious about that because you had mentioned like you had the movie that kind of flopped. And then you had kind of left the limelight, I'll say, as far as like being in the mainstream news, like cycle at all.
Yep.
Because I hadn't really heard your name until I think you spoke at Trafficking Conversions maybe a year or two ago. So I remember seeing your name there, but I hadn't really had your name come up in a while. So is the medicine kind of helping you kind of like reestablish your public profile? Is that what, would you credit that?
No. I mean, honestly, man, if you have any sort of trauma gets you stuck where you are. Right. Mm-hmm. And I was able to take my first ride up. I almost used it in a lot of ways as fuel. Right. But the problem is it's like, if you're using trauma as your fuel, it becomes like an unguided missile. Right. And so look, I had every opportunity to be a massive, massive star on the first ride up. And I was pretty big, but I didn't truly break through in a household name. Right. Even though a lot of people know, like you were talking about, Justin, a lot of people know who I am, but by no means does everyone, not even close, not even half, not even 2/3. Well,
I thought you were way more famous then, but everybody I asked are like, who's that?
Right. So, I mean, there's like a certain age range and a certain type of person, like I'm hugely famous for them. I had more than enough opportunity to break through all the way through. But the problem was the fuel was corrupt, so to say. I don't mean that morally. It's just like everything I did was about me. I was driven by my own narcissism, like all that kind of stuff. And that stuff can take you far, but it's generally not going to take you to the top, and it's not going to take you to a great place. And so I just basically had to spend the last 10 years figuring all this out, man, and like really understanding and unpacking. And all the medicine was almost like the final ingredient that helped me connect a lot of dots and let go of a lot of my baggage, man. And it's not like I couldn't have, listen, I have the charisma and the ability to be famous for a lot of things, like whatever I wanted to do. But I kind of felt like I knew I had more work to do. I just did. And it's like, all right, I'm going to sit in the background. I mean, it's not like I wouldn't do anything, man. I invested in a ton of tech startups. I learned so much stuff. This company, which is now well into the 8 figures, we've done 1,600 books in 5 years. Like I kind of like, there's all kinds of stuff been going. But it's like I had a castle built on sand before. Now I built a castle on rock. And now it's like getting to the size where it's like, oh, okay, now it's an actual castle. Like it's being formed. And now there's a reason to kind of come out and be like, all right, I have something to offer that will help a lot of people. Here it is. And so that's what I'm doing instead of before was, hey, everyone, look at me. I'm going to get attention for myself, which there's a place for that for certain people in society. It's unhealthy. And I just didn't want to do it. You know?
So what else have you kind of picked up? Because you're pretty insightful. You pick up on a lot of like patterns and trends going on in culturally and in society. What else have you picked up in the world of like business in terms of the way that people are influencing one another? And I'm curious if you study like the psychology of influence and things like that. And if you have,
I'm a storyteller, man. I better study that shit.
Yeah. Right. Well, I'd love to hear some insights about like what you've learned along the way in terms of being able to influence, because this is a marketing show after all.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about that.
And I also want to, we haven't even talked about what your current project is and the scope of it. So if you could kind of talk about that also and just let our listeners know like what it is that you're doing right now and then kind of why you're doing it and your take around it.
All right. So I can actually answer both of these questions at once.
Perfect.
So they feed each other really well. So Justin's question is, what trends are you seeing? And Andros is, what are you doing? So my company is called Scribe Media. We help people write, publish, and market their books, right? And so basically, it used to be that either you had to go to a traditional publisher, which had its own problems, or you had to self-publish, which is like there was no good options for that. It was all down market garbage. So all we've done is combine the best of both worlds. It's self-publishing, so you get all the rights and royalties, you own everything, you control everything, but we have a level of quality and service that actually exceeds traditional publishers now. Like our cover designers are better, like everything is, because they're our clients, right? So we've got to actually, whereas traditional is like, the author's not really the client, they're our clients. So you can come to us now, and we've done books like David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me, which is like about as famous. That's the second best-selling memoir after Michelle Obama's book. We've done a bunch of Nassim Taleb's a client, the Nobel Prize Committee. We get on the list of the marketers we have, like tons of those. Like his book's not out yet, but Ryan Dice is a client, Roland Frazier. Like a lot of the marketers who haven't done serious books now are doing them with us, right? Because they want to own them and control them, but they want it to be super high quality and not the garbage stuff that a lot of marketers.
Well, like you said, there's not many publishers or self-publishing style companies that can say, I published David Goggins' book and it's a New York Times bestseller. So, I mean, that's a whole nother level of credibility.
Because almost all of them, I'll tell you why, because almost all of them are marketers who don't know anything about books or publishing, right? Like, in fact, every single one of I wake up every day.
Because it sounds like an easy way to make money. Because if I look at it like that, I've thought about that because that's what it sounds like, but I have never really pursued it.
It is at the beginning an easy way to because there's so many people who want to write books and there's so little good information, but we're in the business of changing that right now. Like literally, so to answer your question, that's what I do. How's that changing? So what I see in the world is that we are reaching, and coronavirus has done nothing but rapidly accelerate this. We are reaching a place, I think, where all high-level professionals are realizing something that a lot of marketers understood, but even marketers don't fully get this, I think. Everyone is going to have their own media, right? The idea that you can just be a company man for 20 years or that you can just rely on your network or go to the right schools and check the right boxes, that era is rapidly coming to. It was coming to an end before. Now it's very rapidly coming to an end. And people now want to work with people who have proof of work. Like if you're a coach and I can listen to your podcast and hear you coaching people, you are 100 times more likely to get my business than if someone who doesn't, right? Or if you're a coach with a book that explains your process, you are 100 times more likely to get my business than just someone, even if they're really good, someone who comes just by recommendation or I just read about or whatever. And so like, I think people are starting to realize this, but very few companies understand this. And so we're from the perspective of books, really get this. And so that's the whole point of our company. We have a huge marketing backend. Like we sell services, ongoing services to all of our authors. We don't sell them publicly though, because everything we do is based off books, right? Not the only way to do it. You can have big media profiles without a book. But that's sort of like our thesis is that all high-level professionals are basically going to have a book. And so all roads eventually come to us, because writing books is really, really hard, especially good ones. Writing good books is really hard. Writing bad books is really easy. But that's the other thing, is that now in a world where everyone has media, you get judged. Like going to Harvard, you could be the dumbest kid in Harvard and you still went to Harvard. If you have a bad book, you look bad. If you have a good book, you look really good. And that's a huge, like people can judge you based on you and your work product now. That's another major thing. The other big thing I would say, the third one is everyone is now in the marketing and persuasion game. And most people still don't realize this. Like I can't tell you when people come in, oh, I'm not in the marketing business. I'm bullshit, you're not. Everyone is in that game. And so a huge part of what we do is help like people understand, especially our authors, understand you're in that game, whether you like it or not. And so you better learn how to play it and play it well, or you are going to lose to those who do.
Well, just the perception of having a book, which I think this is changing. I think you're alluding to this. If you have a book, you're thought of as a bigger deal than even if your book sucks. To this point, at this point, it's changing because I think people are starting to look at the books more now than they used to. But you're just thought you're seen in a higher light. But if somebody that just grabs like 100, 1,000 quotes and puts them into a Word document and puts them into Amazon CreateSpace and calls themselves a best-selling author, that's not the same thing though to me as someone that's writing a real book and like actually putting out value and content. And I think that's where we're going to see a shift, because there's just a lot of people that are still doing that kind of a model where they're like, they don't care anything about the book that they're actually putting out. They just want the title of author. And
we intentionally took the premium position in the market and intentionally signaled away from those people. And you're absolutely right. Those people are all slowly but surely dying, because it's like when Amazon bestseller, people thought that was cool. Those people were doing great, like whatever it was 5 years ago. And now they're all, because everyone like that's what happens. You pollute a market with bullshit, then the credential become like, if you can buy a Harvard credential at 7-Eleven, it won't be worth anything.
So the people that you publish, are they do you help them with like editing, or is there like a degree of like, how do you choose who to publish? How does that your platform work?
So we just rolled out a different set of products, but generally, before 6 weeks ago, it was $10,000 just to basically get in the door with us. 10,000 up to 100,000 plus. And but even then, we would turn down about 10 to 15% of people who have money who want to do it. And it's look, I'm a big believer everyone should be able to write a book, and so that's why we our method we put out for free in Scribe Book School, which I'll talk about in a second. So we're selecting people not because most traditional publishers select based, honestly, on elitism. What are our friends? It is a status thing. Yeah, they want to sell books, but that is secondary to status for traditional publishers. And don't let them ever tell you different. It is absolutely true. And they will all admit that like they won't publish books that will sell a lot of copies if it means that they don't get to go to the cool cocktail parties in New York City. I'm dead serious. That's 100% true. There's a couple of people who don't care that like sell a bunch of books, and they're the ones that all the down market books go to. The rest all go to the cocktail parties. I'm dead serious. That's how that business works. It's crazy to think about, but it's true. So we're not like that. But we're not going to publish a book that's not a book. Like if you shit in a bag and call it a book, it's like, sorry, dude, like there's nothing we can do to help you, right? Like our process and our system, we can either help you with publishing, we can do the writing and publishing, or we can do the writing, publishing, and marketing. We can do all of it, right? And so if someone comes to us and they're like, hey, write me a book on sales. And we're like, okay, let's talk about what you know and craft the book. And they're like, yeah, I know the same shit as everyone else. Just go write the book. I don't care what's in it. Put my name on it. We're like, okay, you'll be better off working with one of our competitors. And those people are always awful to work with. So we push them to our competitors, and then our competitors can deal with that bullshit. We deal with people who are smart, who have shit to say, who care what's in their book. and then want it to be as good as possible, those are our ideal clients.
At the very least, they have an outline.
Right. No, you don't have to show up with an outline. You just have to show up with an idea. Like, look, people who work with us, they've been doing shit for 10 years or more, right? People pay them for their knowledge. People have been asking them to write a book, and they don't have the time or energy or effort to write, like ability to write one. And so they need someone to guide them through the process, right? And so either you can write it yourself with our guidance, and we can do editing and publishing, or we can interview you and get it out. And it's sort of like ghostwriting, but it's all your words, your ideas, same sort of thing.
Well, let's take a moment to talk about the what's coming up here in 2 weeks, or what is it? Saturday? What day is it? It's Saturday.
It is next. No. It's Tuesday the 28th and Wednesday the 29th. It's almost a week away.
Tuesday the 20th. Okay. So tell us about that.
So basically, when coronavirus hit, we were like, all right, how can we, because obviously we're not in the front lines. We're not a health company, so there's not a whole lot we can do, but everyone's stuck at home and everyone wants to write a book. So what can we do to help? And we're like, we don't sell information. I don't believe in selling information is fine. Just in this field, I think everyone should be able to write a book. So I think selling high priced courses here is bullshit. So we took our entire process, like everything we do with our clients, all the templates. I mean, these are things, people pay us $100,000 or more. And I taught the entire thing over 5 days. Like for about 3 hours a day, I taught the whole thing, everything. How do you, how to figure out if you should publish a book, how to figure out what book you should publish, how to position it in the market, how to structure it properly, how to outline it with all of our templates that our writers used with our authors. We gave all of it away for free, like everything, soup to nuts. One, because like our sales had fallen off 50%. So we're like, all right, we got time. Two, let's do it. Two, we believe in the mission. And three, we're like, all right, if our competitors are selling this information, why don't we give it away for free to prove how, what our mission is and what we actually believe? And so we did. Ended up doing really well. We had like 5,000 people in the first set of webinars. And so we're redoing it again next week. And we're going to teach the same thing. It's called, we're going to leave it up for free forever. It's called scribebookschool.com. And then what was funny, what was so cool about this, and you guys are marketers, so you'll get how this works. Most people don't. People were like, I made a promise to everyone. I'm not going to sell them. This is not a sales webinar. This is a teaching webinar only. And then, of course, people were asking like halfway through, hey, this seems amazing, but can you guys do the work for me? What do you guys do? And I'm like, guys, you need to go to scribewriting.com, talk to my sales team. They're good at that. I'm only here to teach. And then people kept asking. And so I was like, look, put in the comments what services you want. Like, I won't sell information, but we can, time costs money, coaching, editing, calls, whatever. Put what you want, and we'll see if we can figure something out. So we went through and we created like two lower end products. One that's like $5,000 that includes a full edit of the manuscript, and one that's like $1,500 that includes a couple calls. And then they all have like a Facebook group and weekly Q&A. And dude, we sold like $50,000 worth of that. We had a webinar 2 weeks after the teaching. Like, it wasn't even the end of the week, dude, because it took us 2 whole weeks to recover.
Because you said you can't buy it. You can't buy it, so now you have to.
We didn't have anything to sell.
Yeah.
We literally didn't have. We had to make up this product based on what people were asking for. And now we're going to start selling it, and it's going to be people love it. And I thought it would be all people who couldn't afford our higher end stuff, and I was totally wrong. There were so many people who could afford it. They just either didn't, they weren't sure. They didn't know. They didn't want to commit that much. They wanted to go slower. They wanted it, whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
And so now we've got all these ballers that have paid $1,500 to $5,000, and it's like it's this whole other group that of market that we weren't paying attention to. That's probably going to end up being as big or bigger than what we're doing already.
And I think it gets into the scarcity conversation where like people are afraid to give out their best information for free because they're afraid that if you give that away, then people are going to start rival businesses or people are going to just take it and not hire you. But like I've seen this over and over and over and over, that when you give people all this great information, all it does is incentivize them to be like, oh, I want more now. What else is back there? Yeah.
It's what I was talking about. It's all these people now are like, oh, I've seen Tucker teach this. He really knows what he's talking about. These things were amazing, but I still want to save a bunch of time and have them do it for me or whatever.
Of course, because they trust your judgment because you're laying down the knowledge. But not only that, and this is something that we talk a lot about on the show, is the idea of reciprocity. You give away as much information as possible until people's eyes are rolling back in their heads and they're just like, I'm overwhelmed with it. You do it. I can't handle it. And that's the model. I mean, it's brilliant, especially in times like this where, you figured out a way to pivot. We also talked about this on the show where people are trying to figure out what to do now. But if you can pivot your business in a certain way, give away some information, get yourself seen, it's a really nice way to, get something back in return when everything maybe returns to normal. I don't think it ever will.
Well, not the same level of normal, a new set of normal,
a new normal, a new stasis.
Well, we're creeping up on the end of the show. This is a fast hour, man. And I could go another, but so first of all, where can we find this course? When is it going to be? Where can we find it?
Right. It's called Scribe Book School. Just go to scribebookskool.com. You can register on there, like put in your email, and then we'll send you all the details. You can register for the webinar. If you miss the live training, it's no big deal because we're going to put everything up online for free, and it'll stay free forever. And in fact, the last training we did is up online right now for free. So if you want to start today, you can just go start. You don't have to wait for the live training.
Now, what are the hours for this? Do you have that?
Yeah, it is Tuesday from 11 a.m. Central to like 4 Central. Tuesday and Wednesday, 11 a.m. Central to 4 Central.
Okay. Nice.
So
and
5 hours.
And 10 hours total.
Because you've done, you're in the middle of becoming a what I like to call like a psychonaut. You're a psychonaut is somebody who travels on the
I got you.
Have you had any insight into what this whole thing is and what it represents in a more cosmic sense?
I have not. So I can't tell you I went to a different universe and they told me X or Y. No, I don't. I will tell you just based on what I have seen and what I think. Look, a lot of people making the argument, this is the Earth's way of healing and creating a stasis and, a new balance. That might be true. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm open to that possibility. I have no idea if that's true. But I do know that I think the two main things that you can see real clearly if you look is that the sociopaths in key choke point areas of old world stuff, politics, media, and finance, are trying to use this to consolidate their power, right? That's just how sociopaths are, right? And so that is absolutely happening.
Using chaos as an opportunity.
Right, exactly. And if you think that's not, then you're just a blind, you're a useful idiot for them. You're a sheep.
Yeah.
But on the other end, I see this as being a lot of people are waking up. And not just waking up about the sociopaths, they're waking up about their lives. And they're realizing, wow, almost everything I did in my life was bullshit to distract me from my emotions.
Totally. This is exactly what I see this whole thing happening, especially now because people are suddenly having to spend time with their families.
Yeah, and with themselves.
Yeah, there's a lot of introspection. In fact, they just did a study. I forgot, I read it somewhere, but in the UK, they polled a bunch of people and they said, do you want things to go back to normal? And like 75% were like, no way. And how are people going to go back to work when suddenly it's like, because this is making us question everything, yes, the media that we ingest, the politics that we follow, the products that we buy, where they come from, all of it is suddenly like on us. And we have to look at it, like really look at it, our relationships, like how we deal with our children, everything. Yeah. So nothing is going to be the same again. And I agree with you. I think that the systems and the programs that have been in place to keep us sedated and hypnotized, they're not working anymore. And so you see the volume going up to 22 because they don't know what else to do because this is the one thing they cannot control. So
I think we're seeing the break of consumerist culture. We're seeing the break of slave culture. We're seeing the break of all of it.
Yeah.
And so the real question is, who's going to win? Who's going to win the race? The sociopaths consolidating power or people waking up?
Well, I find it incredible that like grocery workers have maintained and continue to go to work and under these circumstances, making, $15, $16 an hour and like risking their lives practically to do it. It's like insane, like the level of that these people are putting out there, the level of risk, and for what? Like it's crazy, but it holds it also holds our entire supply chain together, and it's what keeps like the country running. But it's just like it's a whole like that trips me out just to think about that there are people willing to do that for $15, $20
for minimum wage.
Well, dude, Dude, I'm just telling, like, my wife's a nurse practitioner. She owns her own healthcare practice. She's been on the front lines of this from the beginning. And she's convinced, and that the data seems to back her up. She's convinced that if you are under 50 and have no comorbidities, that this is basically the flu in terms of the risk factors for you. But those are two very important things. Over 50, things change a lot. You got to be real careful, right? Comorbidities, meaning diabetes, heart conditions. Like if you have existing health factors, old or existing health factors, this is a very, very deadly high risk thing. If you don't have either of those, some people are going to die. Yeah, of course. But it's not really that big of a deal. And if you're up to the day looking at the data, especially looking at Sweden and Switzerland and Germany, who all three took very different approaches than most everyone else, although different from each other too. You're looking at, man, I'm telling you, man, like, and the antibody tests, and there's a lot of other things coming back. I think this is going to get weirder before it gets more normal. And I think,
oh, absolutely.
No, I think a lot of people are going to realize that they got hoodwinked. Not that I think an intense reaction at the very beginning would have made a lot of sense. Like what Korea and Taiwan did. If we had done that makes sense. Lockdown immediately, test and trace everyone. Okay, great. If you don't do that, then you just have to basically try and flatten the curve to get to an eventual herd immunity situation. Okay, fine. But that doesn't justify, like at the beginning and what's going on now are very different things.
Yeah.
You're going to start to see people wake the fuck up, man.
We have not felt the financial ramifications yet.
No, not even close. Not even close.
Credit card companies have not had the defaults that they're going to have.
No, not even close.
Mortgage companies are just starting to get those.
Well, yeah. Check this out. I've been following this. I found a thread on Reddit, and this guy did all this research, and I double checked it and I verified it, and it's true. You know how there's been all these like protests of like, open up the economy, and you've seen this, right? Like people like blocking hospitals to like open up the economy, and you can't take away my freedoms. Well, it turns out that these groups have been heavily funded by the DeVos family and other groups that are like basically like these oligarchs, right? And there were some websites that are like the Foundations of Freedom, and they were set up kind of on the same day just before Trump tweeted like, liberate these states. So it was basically like this thing where they got these people, the money came in from these companies to basically fund these events, to get these people to go and protest. So Fox News can show it on TV and say, see, everybody wants the economy open. But here's the thing. The reason, and this is just my own conspiracy tinfoil hat thing, I think that the reason why they want people to get together is they want the disease to continue to spread so everyone can stay home for the election. And the only option would be to vote by mail. And that is why they want to defund the post office and shut it down so there's no vote by mail. This is a total takeover of the United States. I'm done with my tinfoil hat conspiracy. Thank you very much. Good night.
It's a whole different level right there, man.
Dude, I don't know what conspiracy theories are true or not. I just know some of them are going to turn out to be right.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say about what you're saying though, Tucker, about the comparisons to the flu. I think what I found is interesting is I've also been looking at the data. I think this will end up being slightly above the flu in terms of mortality. Maybe like the flu is like 0.1%. This will be 0.2. Right. But I also think this affects a very different segment of the population, like the younger people that have comorbidities, like you were saying, are actually at risk of dying, whereas the flu is pretty much only a certain section of older people that are affected. So it affects a different segment of 0.2% of people, and so it's a whole different thing.
Well, that's the other thing too. If the data that we're seeing now from the very front lines is proves out. Do you know what the real comorbidity is? It's metabolically unhealthy people, which is most people. Overweight, who eat shit, who don't exercise, all the diseases of inflammation and the diseases of overconsumption, this thing seems to attack like really bad. And so like, if that's true, then like what we're going to see, like, and I think we're going to see it anyway, because I'm just telling you, man, like, a lot of global supply chains are going to break down and not come back. Most of them will, but like seafood is extremely complicated. 95% of commercial fisheries are shut down now and probably like are shut down, done. right? And I think we're going to see a lot of stuff where people are going to start being like all this urban farming, chickens in your backyard, things where people start doing shit for themselves and are self-reliant. We're going to see any business like that is going to go through the roof right now.
But not only that, but countries that are able to do that.
So we're going to start producing their own shit, right?
Well, I live here.
Which look, I'm a big fan of free trade. I like free trade, but also I like people doing their own shit. And I like a robust world that has a lot of insurance built for downside, which a globalized just-in-time system is not, as we are seeing.
Well, we have 80% of our pharmaceutical pills are coming from China right now. So 80%, or it might be more, but I was hearing 80.
Yeah, but how does that make any sense?
And we don't even have a manufacturing plant capable of producing respiratory masks. So 3M had to outsource like to China and other countries because
that's bizarro land.
Weird.
This is bizarre land, the way that this thing was handled. And I live here in the Netherlands, right? So I know that the Dutch, one thing I know about them is that they are very self-reliant. And we have some of the highest concentration of indoor growing of anywhere in the world. And so I know that especially like with the way that the EU is built together, and it's funny that just as the UK left the EU, all of a sudden they're like kind of on their own. And now the EU has trading status with one another. So I think, being next door to Germany and some of the northern countries, I think we're going to be okay here. But there's some other countries that are not at all.
I know.
I worry about it.
Very interesting times.
So are you pumping all your money in the stock market, Tucker?
No, I actually think I'm not fucking around. I think the stock market is going to Dow's going to hit 40,000 within the next 18 months to 2 years, which doesn't mean the economy is healthy. It doesn't mean things are great. I'm just saying the European bonds have to default. They're done. Like those Corona bonds that are coming in are this certain mission that they're done. And so they're going to default. Asia's going to default. We're going to have a massive sovereign wealth defaults. And so the only place for big money to run is going to be U.S. equity markets. So I'm very bullish on the Dow, only as a symbol of that's the only place left for big money to go. Not that everything's going to be great in America.
Not that it's legitimately, but it's propped up because of that. Okay.
Wow. Well, this has been an amazing conversation. Tucker, we'd love to have you back on, man, at some point when this is all over and done with, and talk more about what you're doing. And if you ever
talk about the election and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, right. Oh, dude, I forgot. I know we've forgotten that's coming. It's only like 6 months away or something.
It's insane. That's insane that's coming. Yes.
This has been a long decade. This decade has been the longest decade in.
I know, and it's 4 months old.
It's 4 months into it. Oh my God, Tucker Max, everybody, amazing. So I think that I know what I'm going to do in the next couple of weeks here.
What's that? Are you going to do some MDMA therapy or what?
Well, I mean, that's a given for sure. A little microdosing, but no, I really want to take this course. I think it's going to be quite something.
Yeah, absolutely. And I might not be able to attend it live because we're talking about 10 hours in the midweek. But like he said, if you go to the website, you can actually watch the previous one is on demand. So I'll be heading over there and checking that out like right away.
Yeah, but he's going to keep it up permanently anyway, right? So
yeah, the new one will be recorded and kept up permanently as well. So the one that he did like a couple of weeks ago, he said is up there now on demand, and then this one will also be on demand when it's released. But I mean, ideally, I would want to attend live. I'm just that kind of a person where I'm like much better focused on a live presentation for whatever the reason. That's just me.
Yeah, I'm much better focused when I can do 2x and 2.5x times the speed, but while I'm reading the news. But ladies and gentlemen, we are the Marketing Geeks. Thank you so much for listening. Please leave a review and tell 500 of your closest friends about us. Oh, damn it. We forgot to ask him what he's most geeky about.
Oh my God. Well, what are you most geeky about? Why don't you answer the question?
That's a great question. I just actually finished season 2 of Westworld. And
so what did you think? Because I kind of liked it, but I was underwhelmed overall. Like it wasn't as good as season 1 for sure. I'm positive on that front. It was a little like overly complicated for the sake of like trying to be overly complicated, I feel like.
I actually think it felt to me that they completed the season and they said, well, you know what, we're about 3.5 episodes short, so we got to pad it. and they just put like a storyline that really didn't make any sense. But that was pretty cool. I mean,
it's still creative. It's still a decent show, and I have not dove into season 3 yet, but it'll happen soon.
Yeah, and so I'm into that. And then the other thing that I'm actually into is I'm using a new piece of software called Writer Duet. It's a free screenwriting software, and I've actually started writing my.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I've had this idea, the story idea, kind of kicking around in my brain for several years now, and I've finally started writing it. And I'm writing it as a screenplay because screenplays come easy to me, easier than like a novel.
Mm-hmm.
Novels take too long, but I'm probably going to convert it into a novel at some point. But it's coming very fast, and which is good. And I took time to outline it and really get into the characters. And the process of writing is always surprising to me. So maybe this time I will finish it. I do not know.
Maybe. Well, I mean, if you get the screenplay done, that's a easier transition to get to the novel after that, because it's just, at least you have the dialogue, you got the story, you got all the beats. I think that'll put you on your path.
Yeah, and if I sell the book, then I could say, well, I got the screenplay, and that's how I make the internet money.
That's how you make the internet money. For me, I think I emailed you about, or I messaged you about this. I watched the movie The China Hustle, which is a documentary on Amazon.
Yeah. And
I actually emailed that guy because I'm like, you got to come on our show. And I don't think we'll see if he responds or not. But it's about this guy that was. He reveals how the stocks on the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ, they list companies from China, but they're not really listed in the U.S. They're like, they take like shell companies and like somehow attach these companies to these weird shell companies. It's a really weird system. And a lot of the companies that were listing, he and other groups of researchers went out to China and went to go check on them. And a lot of these companies that are listed like $100 million, making $100 million a year companies were like complete rundown factories, complete lies, complete fabrications, total fraud. And it's like, it's just Wall Street fraud all over again. So this guy's mission is to identify these fraudulent companies that are still happening to this day and short selling them and, punishing them and kind of exposing that truth. But it's a fascinating thing. I had no idea any of this was going on, and I actually am somewhat in touch with the markets too.
So. Wow, I got to check that. Man, there are ways that people are making money and just amplifying it that we can't even comprehend.
We can't even think of it. It's crazy.
And meanwhile, you've got people who are like digging in a trash can looking for a peach pit to eat, and trying to figure out how to deal with their lives. And these guys
are making, hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars on fake companies.
Yeah, it's and this is something that Tucker and I definitely agree on, which is that there are things coming to light and the system is breaking apart. The sociopaths that are running things are not going to be able to hold this shit together for too much longer, man. I guarantee you in 500 years, if we're still alive as a species, people will look back at this time and be like, oh my God, can you imagine living through that? That must have been crazy.
Yeah. And I think that this situation has made some people that are sociopaths have made it just so painfully obvious that they lack empathy.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name names, but there are some people that if you pay attention to what's being said and it's just painfully obvious.
Well, I think that
I don't care what opinions there are. There are just some things that have just been so. There's no argument there.
Yeah, I think
you can argue about other things, but there's no argument that there's like a lack of empathy.
Definitely, and I think that's a problem with a good majority of, especially in the Western world. Like, if America has done anything, it's learned how to create and breed and educate and perform and reward performance for sociopaths and psychopaths, and that's that's got to end. It's got to end, or we end as a species, So I believe it's going to happen.
I guess it's part of not just capitalism, but like individualistic, every man for himself kind of that philosophy, which is what we were pretty much built under. I think that is probably the bigger thing, because you see the other countries that have the more collectivist kind of cultures that don't. They're more the group. They support the groups, and they're not running into these kind of greed issues. I'm a fan of capitalism. I'd like to see it work, and I'm not sure though, because it's time and time again, like the stuff keeps happening. I mean, it's obvious patterns at this point.
Yeah, and I pay a lot of fucking tax over here, man. But you know what? My kid can go to a really, really good school, and I don't have to worry about him getting shot. And people don't lose their house when they get sick. And it's a different game, So look out for everybody.
Well, I always want to be rewarded for my work. And those kind of things, but I think those can coexist with other ideals.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
So another great show, man. Thank you so much, Tucker Max and Justin Womack. We are the Marketing Geeks, and we are out.
Stay classy.
Marketing Geeks, come on, bring your friends. We'll learn marketing from distant lands. Andros, Sturgeon, and Justin Womack. The fun will never end. It's Marketing Geeks.
Marketing Geeks.